Well, hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to episode 97.
97.
97 of the Hail Ming Power Hour. One of these days, Daddy, we're going to reach 100.
I mean, presumably when there presumably when we have three more episodes.
Yeah, I mean, that would, mathematically that works out. But
But
we'll see.
does math work the same here in space?
True. That's very true. If you're not familiar with the show, I'm Rick. I'm one of your hosts. The handsome gentleman on that side is Danny. He's floating in space. I'm in the swamp.
I'm in the back. I'm in the observation deck of War Rocket Ajax. It's the deck that we don't use that much because usually we're in the front watching movies.
Right. Recently, I was on. Remember Todd Liebenow? He's got Forgotten Film Cast.
Yeah.
And he invited me on. Yeah, we talked about, what was it, Wild Thing?
Wild Thing.
He invited me back on a couple of weeks ago, and we did Megaforce.
The other choice, other than Wild Thing, is he was talking about Band of the Hand, which I have a lot of love for.
Which I'm going to do on Dr. Movie real soon, unless we want to do it on here.
I could talk about Band of the Hand. I mean, it's very quintessentially 80s.
No doubt about it. So, yeah, this whole week that I got coming up is all school bullies episodes, and Band of the Hand is tied into a lot of those movies when you look them up, but it's not a real school bully movie. But
yeah, it's more like kind of a task force.
Yeah,
but they're also young kids kind of thing.
It's more like Megaforce. But anyways, what I was getting to with Todd, he kept talking about War Rocket Ajax. And I was like, wow, he's still playing the whole Hail Ming thing there. So cool.
Hey, it resonated. It was,
yeah, it did.
It was important.
It's because we had a resonator in the back, close to the time chicken.
We had a time chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, who else had a time chicken? Nobody.
Yeah. I mean, we still got him. We just don't use him like we used to. We got a time kitty, looks like.
Yeah, we do.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. We're here to talk about Swamp Thing, 1982. Wes Craven. When you think of the name Wes Craven, a lot of images come to your mind. I don't know that Swamp Thing is one of them.
I was thinking while watching this that this is proof that Wes Craven can make a movie.
Oh, so yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from because I was watching this too, and I was like, this was the shiz when I was growing up.
I mean, same. I mean, and like, I'm not going to be hard on it for sure. Like, it was just kind of like, yeah, this isn't. I don't feel like this was Wes Craven's wheelhouse. He wasn't hitting home runs with this, but it's still a movie that I am fond.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a dude in a big rubber zip-up suit.
Sure.
But you know what? I still love it. I still love it.
What's not to love? Swamp Thing, man.
Yeah. I mean, you got dude running around flipping cars over, flipping boats over. Adrian Barbeau taking a bath out in the swamp.
Yeah.
What else you need?
That's a good question. What else do you need?
Oh.
Maybe a cartoon show a couple of years later. That's what you need.
No, what you need is Jude, the little dude that never gets rattled over anything.
Yeah, he's somewhere on the spectrum, I think. Like he's just like, yeah, where are my glasses? Like I was just dead in a boat.
I just love because he never gets excited. He just kind of goes, there goes neighborhood.
It's true. It's an interesting inclusion, his part in this, like the kid who runs a gas station in the middle of the swamp with no parents.
Yeah, that happens,
I mean, I suppose, yeah. I mean, it has to, right?
So, I mean, you got everything you need. I mean, this is Marvel before Marvel, right? Does it even mention that it's a Marvel product anytime during the credits or anything?
Swamp Thing is DC.
Is it? It is DC. That's right. My mistake. I don't know
No,
what I
no
was
problem.
thinking.
I mean,
Man-Thing is
Man-Thing is
Marvel.
Marvel, which we recently saw
That's
in the
right.
Halloween special.
Yeah.
Yeah, Werewolf by Night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Swamp Thing is DC. That's right.
and Swamp Thing is topical because James Gunn said that
Yep.
in the new DCU he's going to bring out a Swamp Thing as one of the new offerings.
Right. So, of course, with technology, you go, yeah, okay, that's doable. But you know what? This dude standing behind me, I'm sorry, that's Swamp Thing.
Man, when they're out in that boat and the very first time he's Swamp Thing and they're pushing Adrian Barbeau into the water and then he flips that boat over and it's just like an explosion of
Yeah.
water, like flipping the boat with those guys in it. It's like that dude is bad.
Right, man. Right. So, I mean, we talked about Adrian Barbeau, right? I mean,
Yeah.
She was everywhere at this point, right? Creep Show, all your Carpenter
Barbeau
stuff. Yeah, I mean, of course, we got to see her, and she talked about what's your favorite role. She's like, I don't even remember that movie. So,
yeah, well, old age will play some tricks, but I what I like about it is she's not your typical leading lady kind of thing, but
right.
She's got a lot of charisma, and she's not hard to look at, but at the same time she's also playing these rough and tumble characters, and you can totally believe it.
Yep.
You believe she'd sock somebody in the face.
When she pulls out the machine gun and starts mowing people down, you're like, yeah, okay.
that whole sequence, I had forgotten that she was an agent there until like she runs out of the cabin and somebody's like, hey lady, and puts his hands on her and she like elbows him in the gut, punches him in the face, and then takes his machine gun. I mean, like, she's ready to rumble.
Yeah.
But so I just gotta say that I had forgotten that Swamp Thing was Leland Palmer, man.
Right.
Ray Wise,
Ray Wise. Yeah.
That guy, I've seen him in tons of stuff, and he's always just he's a fan. He's a favorite of David Lynch.
Yep.
He shows up in a lot of David Lynch stuff.
He's in RoboCop.
He's kind of an oddball character. Yeah. So when I saw him, I was like, I had forgotten that he was the doctor who became Swamp Thing, and he's great.
Yeah.
He's likable. I don't think I've ever seen him be so likable.
Yeah. And of course, Dick Durock plays the actual Swamp Thing.
Sure, not quite as likable.
Big dude, but the standout guy to me has got to be the bad guy, man.
Oh, Dr. Arcane.
Arcane, man. Luis Jordan.
He jumped straight out of I would say he jumped straight out of a James Bond flick, except man, he was totally Zartan with like,
exactly.
When we revealed is like, oh, I'm actually not the head of security. And he pulls off they cut away and they come back and the latex mask is in his hand and he's somebody else who has a completely different voice. I mean, like, he's Zartan.
Yeah. And you know what? I'd forgotten about him pulling the face off thing. I was like,
great.
All right. Yeah. So, and I love, one thing I love about this movie, because this is the way I like my bad guys. I like my bad guys to be right on time, very punctual, right? We don't attack until 20 seconds after they just made a huge discovery. I mean, they weren't even there to see it, but they know that it happened,
Well, they were laying in wait. They had their, Dr. Arcane was posted up as their security guy. Like, they didn't even know he was there.
But they accidentally, spilt the stuff on the ground, and then sprouts are coming up. They're like, that's it. That's what we've been waiting on.
I mean, I know it's the trope of the accidental superhero, but I mean, I was watching this going, hey, it's Darkman, like,
oh yeah,
it's very much, it even has like Bruno.
Speaking of Darkman, yeah.
Is, oh, hey boss, like he's got the same, like, he doesn't know where he is kind of character. He's a goon.
Yep.
And it made me think, fondly of Darkman, which is another one we've got to cover. But
sure.
But right now we're talking about Swamp Thing.
That's right.
And I
maybe next episode can be Darkman.
Hey, we can compare and contrast, or we can just talk about it. I have Darkman memorized, but
I know you do.
I know I've watched Swamp Thing at least 50 times though. As a kid watching it on cable. let's just talk about speedboats and collisions, man. I mean, you got speedboats flipping over. You got, Swamp Thing's big trick is to take people out of boats and throw them in the water so that later they can come back and shoot at him again. Like,
yeah, his big strategy is just throw people as far as you can.
like if he throws them far enough, they're not going to come back or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's always reaching up, grabbing people in boats and slinging them out in the water, and then flipping your boat over, and then walking off.
There was a moment when I was watching this. This is all over the place, isn't it? But like,
it's all right.
When Adrian Barbeau is getting his ferret, the gang leader for the Contras there, he's holding her head underwater, and I'm like, this is almost Last House on the Left here.
It's very much Last House on the Left. That's David Hess.
And I mean, and so it just pointed out. I think at that point I was also thinking, this is Wes Craven,
right?
And he brings something real visceral to the. There's a lot of ugliness in this that you wouldn't get in a superhero movie unless you got, kind of a horror auteur to do it instead.
Horror / snub film / porn director, right? He kind of has all those elements under his belt, and it really shows up in all of his early stuff. I mean, you feel it, right? And even in this one, you're right. What makes this one stand out is even as popcorn comic book as this is, with all the swipes and everything that happen.
Oh yeah,
very very creep show like when you think about the swipes and all that.
I love the swamp. Yeah, that they do.
But it's still that grittiness, man, that he puts into things, that it's his own little stamp, I guess.
And like some of the acting is kind of wooden at the beginning,
sure,
but it really starts to get fluid near the middle and end. Like, sure, it's a tropey thing. There's a bad guy and there's a formula and there's a scientist, but like, everything kind of falls into place. And about halfway through the movie, you're invested,
right.
Even though their romance, took all of 25 minutes to bloom.
Yeah, I mean,
still kind of care about every character in it.
Yep, and you're still invested even though you know what's going to happen. Like when she runs out and gets into that roadway, and you're like, okay, they're heading down the road. She's running away. She's going to fall down. They're going to try to run over, and Swamp Thing's going to step in and take care of business and rip the roof off the vehicle. And
oh, wasn't that just great?
That's awesome.
I mean, awesome. Like he pulls that Bronco roof off, and it just flies away like it's not even in the movie anymore.
Yeah. And the scene where, Hess walks up and chops his arm off, or ferret, I guess we'd say. Yeah, the whole machete scene, which really, for this type of movie, you're like, oh, okay. Getting kind of serious here. My only thing is like, this is, we spend, I don't know, quite a bit of the movie with him walking around with one arm. But it's when he decides that he's chained up that this is when I'm going to grow my arm back. I'm like, dude, you've been outside all this time.
I got to admit, like I was half watching it one of the times, like, before they're really watching it. And they were simultaneously showing two scenes at once. And I was like, what is with this hand in the light thing? And then I remembered, oh yeah, he's got to get the light so that he can grow the little baby hand, and it's a weird choice.
Yeah. I'm sure it probably happened in the comic somewhere, but I'm just saying that whole time you were outside in the sunlight, you could have just went, oh, there's my arm, right?
Yeah, it would have taken a lot less time if all it took was enough sun to catch in the palm of your hand,
Yeah,
but like, that's okay.
It's fine. I mean, because you have to have that how they're going to get out of this, right? You got to have that scenario because they're chained up. They got him chained down. They got Adrian Barbeau over there chained up. Reach for the light. He's like, oh.
And then he immediately breaks those chains. Like all it took was the other arm.
Yeah.
But like, all these things are there so that you can have a superhero movie. They're not really, they weren't narrative decisions. They were, okay, and then Swamp Thing's trapped. How do we get him out? Oh, we'll have this moment where he grows his arm back. they were all things that they wanted to display that the
Right.
character could do.
Right. And you got the
And
whole Beauty and the Beast thing going on, right? Because she's terrified of him until she finds out who he is.
right.
And, you kind of get that thing going on. I tell you, though, when I think about this movie, the first thing I think of is that freaking transformation scene at the party, man.
Yeah. With
I mean,
Bruno and the
yeah. When he's dressed like Cousin Eddie off of Christmas Vacation.
yeah, he's
I tell
so
you what,
awkward.
get real spruced up. We're gonna have a party in your honor, and that's the way you come dressed,
I gotta get spruced up.
How about that party, man? I mean, what the
like,
heck's going on here?
So like, 80s movies, you had to have a scene in a strip club so that you could have some boobs, right? I mean, that was kind of a thing in an
or a
R-rated movie.
couple of things, anyways.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes there was more than one dancer. You could have four, but you just had that.
Yeah.
With the swamp bath, Adrienne Barbeau, and then it's almost like that was an afterthought to the thing. So they were like, oh, we've got to have this scene, and so they made it this party. And the one thing that caught me on the rewatch was, you had the dancer dancing around, you had the
guy with the girl that's off
on
the side as well. Yeah,
he's taking her shirt off, but you had some there was some ladies dressed in some fineries, like they were somebody's wife or something, and
it's a weird combination of, hey, we're gonna have dancing girls, but this is gonna be eloquent at the same time.
Yeah, it's like it's like a business dinner or something, like, oh well, all of my thugs and killers are going to come to this dinner, and also a guy with a stogie and a bunch of people's wives. You're right. It's a really weird, opulent dinner party where the centerpiece is making one of your henchmen drink an experimental drug in front of everybody to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's the dining room, right, where everything's nice and catered and beautiful and all the rich people. Then the other room's like the dungeon, right, where all the dancing girl is taking her top off and people's just there going, yeah, babe, go ahead, I don't care,
and it's super weird, but we're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure as a kid I was like, whoa, evil.
I don't even remember it as a kid. I really don't. So watching it again, I'm just like, wow, what a bizarre idea.
Yeah, I remember the stuff that happened at the house. And I remember the cocoon that he's in when Arcane finally takes the drug.
Yeah.
And because he decides he's got enough heart to do it or whatever. And he gets surrounded in that big muscle mass that becomes like tissue paper that he tears off. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's very Altered States kind of idea. And what's bad is, in my mind, I was more terrified of the cocoon looking thing than I was of what he actually became.
Oh, it was way scarier.
Yeah.
I agree. Because it was a big faceless mass. I mean, you could commiserate with any fear he had, because you're like, is this what he's going to be? At least that thing had a face, and that thing was just a monster.
Yeah.
The thing, the cocoon that he was in was something else.
Yeah. And again, the transformation at the table, I just remember just freaking out because of his, it's, you take that and you take the guy that gets the toxic waste dumped on him on RoboCop. They're almost the same thing, because to see a person react like they're reacting is terrifying.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, and it's absolutely, and kudos to that actor who, I'm sure the direction was just, okay, look like this stuff is changing your body and you can't stop it, and you're frightened and angry and all this stuff, and he really looks, it's unsettling.
Right. And the whole idea, of course, when he pops up, you're really taken by surprise too, because he's this little creature or whatever. But the idea that it just, amplifies what you truly are inside.
Right.
And
he's a little mousy guy. You watch it again and you notice he's like, are we going to go home now? This guy's really scary. he's a big, macho man, but like when it comes down to it, he's just a little bitty mousy coward.
I thought that was such an interesting idea of how this works, and that's where, our bad guy decides, aha, I know what I am. I'm a monster. And
well, he probably thinks he's the best, so he's going to be like a, super macho dude or whatever.
I'm part werewolf, part iguana.
Kind of bat-like, with some clawed hands,
and a sword, because just being a monster ain't enough.
So I mean, like, I am going to lampoon this just for a moment, and so why did Bruno's turtleneck shrink?
Yeah, why did his clothes stay the same, or the appropriate size for his shrinkiness?
He's a great big dude in a turtleneck, and then he transforms into a little bitty dude in a turtleneck. It's just
right.
For anybody who's looking, I did notice 5530 on the movie ticker. There's the Wilhelm scream. Somebody gets thrown off a boat. It's the Wilhelm scream. It was a movie trope. People like to throw it in there.
Yep.
Whenever I notice it, I take note. So there it is.
Well, funny enough, I covered Carnosaur 3 not too long ago.
I saw that you did.
Hey, the T-Rex in that movie is the sound of King Kong 1976. 100%, no doubt in my mind, when he goes, roar, it is Rick Baker. Or whoever did the sound. I'm pretty sure Roger Corman just stuck his microphone up to the TV and just recorded. All right, there's our dinosaur sound.
I would think that it would have to be from, what is it, that when it becomes the property, the common law after 50 years, but there's no way it was 50 years old. He just was seeing if anybody was going to catch it.
Exactly. He did the same thing with the raptors too, because the raptors sound just like the raptors in Jurassic Park. So he went and got a videotape of it and just recorded the sounds. Like, all right, use that every time you see a raptor in the movie. So
I'm so surprised that Roger Corman cut corners. Also, when he had Mr. Fantastic for the Fantastic Four, he just took some balloons and while he was stretching his arm out and stretching his leg out to make people trip.
Speaking of cheap effects, I mean, this movie here, I mean, at the time, did we just suspend disbelief enough to just, I mean, you can see it. There's like in this picture behind me, you can tell it's just a rubber suit.
It's a rubber suit. I mean, like you can see when he moves his arms, you can see the wrinkles of the rubber, like, I think so. I mean, I think probably the thought process was there's enough plant stuff there that it could be just like a
cover the zipper, basically. It
didn't bother me when I was a kid, and it really didn't bother me when I watched it today. I mean, he's Swamp Thing.
Again, to me, the weakest thing in this is probably when the main bad guy, his outfit's just a little too
because
it's just a stuck wolf face that's just open all the time, right?
And it almost looks like you're watching Power Rangers or something.
Right. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, and again, I have a lot of love for this movie. I'm not bashing it, but that last fight sequence too was kind of hard to watch. It was like it was kind of like when Martin Landau is playing Bela Lugosi and and Ed Wood, and he's supposed to be fighting the octopus, and he's just thrashing around in the water, and the octopus isn't even animated, so he's like trying to make it. That's kind of what this fight sequence was like. It was like somebody follows it, and you could see that Swampy's supposed to be pummeling him, but he's pulling every punch. He's trying to throw the shot with his body and not let his arm land on the actor in the water.
Right.
And that sword, the guy's chopping around with the sword, and it's just like he's flinging it around.
Well, dude can't see, so that's part of the problem. He's got this big wolf head on.
It's true. And again, maybe it was just they were like, okay, we got to finish this out. You guys fight in the water. Here's the water. Here's the sword.
Yep.
get it, like
he's gonna stab Adrian Barbeau, and you're gonna snap. You're gonna break off a big root over here on one of these trees.
yeah, he took a cypress knee off one of
Yeah,
those. I looked it up after we watched it, and I saw the whole thing was filmed in South Carolina.
that makes sense.
Yeah, there's like an island out there that they used for most of it.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it looks just like a swamp.
I think it is a swamp.
It is a swamp.
I guess. Well, I thought about Reelfoot out there your way,
Mm-hmm.
because they have a lot of those cypress trees with the cypress knees that he broke one off, and I was like, well, I wonder if it was here in Tennessee, but it was real close.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a travel, but yeah, but
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
but still, I mean, who hasn't thought about what the heck are those? So now he just snaps one off and starts beating Wolfie in the head.
it gets the fight gets a little better when they both have a weapon,
Sure.
because then the choreography is more like, okay, sword versus club, and
Right.
and he can whack him with that club because it probably wasn't real, so he can actually hit him with it. And
Right.
it looked good at that point. And then Swamp Thing has to do the 1980s, ET thing and go heal Adrian Barbeau with his glowing hand.
Yeah, and when she wakes up, she's like, "Why are you touching my boob?"
To which the answer, I guess, is, why wouldn't I? Adrian Barbeau, I guess.
I'm just testing out my new hand.
It was a baby hand not too long ago.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's again, we grew up with this. It's hard to talk negative about it. It does have its problems. I think it even had its problems back when it came out, but it doesn't matter because this was my entertainment, just like you're saying. This was on, and you watched it every time it came on. If I was in the house now and it came on TV, guess what I'm going to sit and watch?
That's it. And yeah, I mean, now the bar is so high because effects are so easy to get a hold of, and you have a whole team of 400 people making all the effects seamless. You look back at this, and the best thing this had going for it was a speedboat hitting another speedboat, and there's a big old explosion. It's like that's
you had
what
to
work.
Yeah, you had to make things happen. You had to make things happen because you couldn't rely on we'll fix it after, right? And I kind of miss that because now technology is so good, the effects are so good, we're not even amazed by it because we already know that anything can be done on a computer screen now. So, but you go back and think about the process of you had to plan for all this. You had to make these shots. You had to put this dude in this big dinosaur outfit with a wolf head that can't see and make him swing a sword around and not hit another guy in a rubber suit who can't get out of the water. So, it's a totally different ball game than, well, you just go up against that green screen over there and we'll add everything in later. You just react, like Birdemic. So,
like Birdemic. I'm just looking through my notes. We brought it all in the conversation. There was no need to go, the cypress knee club, the chop in the water with the sword, dude's turtleneck, like Zartan mask reveal. All these things are there. They're all great things to watch for in the movie.
Yep.
And one thing that I haven't mentioned is Ferret. How come Ferret gets all the killer moves? He's got the snake in his pocket.
Right.
He kills that guy with, he's like, oh, I got a snake in my pocket and it's poison, it's venomous. So I'm just gonna, and then he also has the machete, and he also uses like the neck chop.
Yeah.
He uses it at least twice to knock people unconscious. Like nobody else has anything.
It's David Hess, man. I mean, that's all I can say.
And they knew when they got top billing, they had
doesn't he even come back in the second movie? Isn't he in part 2, The Return of the Swamp Thing? It's like, you died in the first one, dude, but you're David Hess, so come on back.
I remember Swamp Thing 2 and the cartoon show, and I like Swamp Thing 1 enough that I watched both regularly. They were, and of course, the whole premise of the cartoon show was dude's still on the manor and he's using the formula to make new monsters every time because it's it's a Voltron thing. It's like you got to send things for Swamp Thing to go dispatch, and that's all you care about. But yeah,
which is a great idea. I mean, let's have a movie like that, right?
Yeah, I think we did.
I'm down for that. I'm down for like more of that, like new. Yeah. I mean, again, this is just one of those. It's funny that the reactions that we got when I just put the picture out there and people's like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, same reaction we have, right? We grew up with this, and
it's Swamp Thing, and
Swamp Thing.
And it follows that rule of like they have 3 encounters with him and then a big boss fight. Like first they establish that he's dangerous, then they go out kind of probing the waters, then they try better weapons, they're throwing grenades at him and stuff,
right?
And then it, they kind of get the drop on him, and then the bad guy gets some powers, and you have a showdown.
That's what
it's
a working combination, man.
That's right.
Yeah, and at the age when this came out, we didn't know it was a repeated type of cycle, right? It was all kind of new, so that's what makes it work. And again, I gotta go with the Jude, because talking about somebody keeping us cool, man. He don't get excited.
No, it was an interesting choice to put him in there.
Yeah.
I don't know what the thought process was with that guy, but
and what's weird is I kind of get him, and they're nothing alike, but I kind of get him and the boy that's in Friday the 13th Part 5 kind of confused, because they're almost the same type of character, but they don't act anything alike. But I kind of get the two of them a little mixed up, just because of, well, they're both in the same type of scenario in this.
Well, and I guess the question might lie, is Swamp Thing more of a superhero movie, or is it more of a horror movie?
Well, it's directed by a horror director, so
it's got monsters in it and gore and killing. I mean, Swamp Thing doesn't kill people, but the bad guys, there's some horror in it.
Sure. Oh man, again, the transformation scene just scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, right? So, and we talk about those things, right? These movies that had horror elements in it that are not. Superman 3 with the woman in the computer.
Yep.
This is nightmare stuff.
I mean, they have to make sure that the danger is present.
Right. And that's the beauty of it, right? Because you can let a dude in a zipped up rubber suit happen because you believe what's going on to a certain degree, right? I think that's the trick, right? It's a problem I have with a lot of movies, because if you're not invested and you're not scared of the bad guys, it's already over.
That's right.
So yeah, man, you got to have a good bad guy. All you people making movies out there, keep that in mind. If your bad guy sucks, your movie's gonna suck.
And it wouldn't hurt to stick Leland Palmer in there. That guy's. I'm super surprised that he was as charismatic, because if you had asked me who played, Dr. Holland.
Is it Holland? Yep, Dr. Holland. Alec Holland.
If you had asked me who played Dr. Holland, I would not have told you that it was Ray Wise. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, oh, is he like the lab assistant before we meet the doctor? And then I was like, oh crap, he's the doctor. And I had no idea.
And you gotta like the when Adrian Barbeau is showing up and getting off the helicopter, you get the other guy that's leaving. It's like, yep, he couldn't handle it. Got one leaving, one coming in. That's just the way it works around here.
Yeah. The whole federal agent thing is kind of an interesting play too, because it doesn't really matter that she has these connections,
right?
Except unless you want to say that Dr. Arcane has circumvented the government somehow, because he ends up.
Yeah, well, when she calls for a backup, who does she call?
It ends up going to Dr. Arcane. I don't know why. Is he? I don't understand why that was there, but it doesn't hurt anything. It was just kind of weird.
No, well, it's a way to show that it's all intertwined, and
right.
They've worked all this system out, and they're that bad at guys, and they have that kind of power, right?
Right.
I mean, look at the house that Arcane lived in. Dude was well off, right?
He had a swamp mansion.
Swamp mansion with naked girls dancing around everywhere and a nice dinner table. What else you want except being able to create monsters?
Who could ask for anything more? And then when you can build, you can take your henchmen and turn them into little, pint-sized monsters. There's nothing more to ask for.
Then you got, of course, you got have a nice fall, or see you next fall. Have a nice trip. You did have that scene. It kind of makes you go,
Again, he was just a Bond villain.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, there you go, folks. Swamp Thing, 1982. It's fun, flaws and all. This is just a classic we grew up with, and hope we didn't deter you or make you mad by bringing out some of the faults of this thing. Hey, it was a low budget movie. You know that from the beginning, right? And the fact that it's still fun to watch and we still have that much love for it, I think that says a lot about this flick. Right?
Yeah, I had to mute there for a second. Got stuff going on in the house. But yeah, it's absolutely worth a rewatch.
There you go, folks. It's on Tubi for free.
Love Tubi.
Yeah. And Return of the Swamp Thing's on there too.
So remember, Hail Ming. Swamp Thing is a watch. You get the chance anytime of day or night, look it up. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Stop what you're doing and watch Swamp Thing.
Swamp what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
The roof get ripped off a Bronco? Swamp Thing.
That's right.
That's it.
You want to see David Hess get his head crushed by one hand? He just one hands it, man, like a bowling
the other
ball.
One's gone.
Yeah. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Adios.